Welcome to the Battle Ready podcast, where we know that every single day is a battle. This show is about equipping you mentally, physically, and spiritually to win the daily battles. I want you to become totally free, whole, and powerful. It's time to step into your battles equipped and ready to win. I'm your host, Dr. Kaylee Judge. Let's get battle ready. Hey guys, and welcome back to the Battle Ready podcast. We are on week 4 of January. That means that we are talking with Dr. Traci one more time, all about weight loss. This week, we are going to head into our guts. Talk about that. Dr. Traci,
I think
back one more time.
It is so good to be here. Again, what am I going to do without my weekly hour with you?
I mean, I don't know. We should just schedule like a week, one week calls.
Yeah, well, it's just been an honor. And this week, we're talking about health and Candida and inflammation. We're going to hit on intermittent fasting this week as well. And I think this lands at the appropriate time because of, we talked, if you haven't checked out our previous 3 episodes, do that because they build on each other in a sense. You're still going to get, if you haven't listened to those, you're still going to get incredible information today, information that is very applicable to your life and your health, no matter where you are, no matter where you're starting in your health journey. I really, I believe that it's a journey. You're not just going to arrive. There is more information, new information, different levels of your health, different ways that you're going to hear it. Every day there's something new to learn with your health. So again, we always say you're not going to take everything, 100% of what we talk about and go apply it. We just encourage you to take the one thing. What's the nugget? What's the one area that if you implemented it today could make massive changes, massive improvement in your health? Because what we do know, and from all of the patients that I've worked with over the last 15 years, is it's possible, no matter where you're starting, to really see a shift and change and improvement in your life and in your health.
And a lot of times it's just that tiny little turn, one little thing. And we, I love how you talk about that it's a journey, because I think so often like we make this decision that we're going to be healthy and then we just think like, boom, it's going to happen tomorrow when I wake up, I'm going to magically be happy. But the reality is like you've got to put the work in, but then you also have to honor like the stress and the strain that you've already put on your body. So maybe you did try some of those fad diets that we talked about last week, and maybe you have gone on some different things, but it like nothing's working, right? The reality is like today it might be your answer, because this is a place where some people just kind of like overlook it. They don't look into it. They don't talk about it. But we really have to see, what is the actual health of your gut, because without that, man, you could be putting the right stuff in there, but not actually have ever healed your gut. And you're just kind of doing this meaningless cycle over and over and over again, causing more damage in the long run.
Yeah. So the, gut health can seem like this big, confusing thing. Like, well, how do I know if that's healthy? And is it just based on symptoms, or do I need to go get a lab test or a blood test or a stool sample or a spit test? It can just be this really big ambiguous thing. And I don't think we have to make it that. If you're really far along in your health journey and you're still not seeing the results that you had hoped, or, people are funny about results that you deserve. That word is a funny one, isn't it?
Yes.
Because particularly in the Christian world, they're like, you don't deserve anything, but you do deserve optimal health. I believe that. I think God wants that for our lives so we can live out our God-given purpose, because without health, we don't have anything. So if you are in a place where you're sitting there and you're thinking, okay, there has to be better. There has to be a new level of energy. There has to be a new level of clarity and your memory working better and your mood balanced. There has to be a better number on the scale for your body. There has to be workouts that work better for me, that aren't leaving me depleted and sore and like miserable. Ask yourself those questions. That's the after action review that you need to do with your body. And as your body ages, some of those things are going to shift and change. And I had the privilege of sitting down with a patient of mine yesterday. She's 73 years old. When she started on the journey, she was 72. And she got into a place where she thought, oh no, I'm about to lose my independence. Mm-hmm. And she was starting to be afraid to do things again, like afraid to go up on ladders and change a light bulb. The simple things that we really take for granted every single day. She said she was losing her strength. She was losing some balance. She was losing the initiative and the drive to want to be able to go work in her yard again. And she lives on 3 acres. That was one of the joys that she had. And, so at that point at 73, 72 at the time, her after action review for her life was this: what am I going to do if I don't do something different? And what is this going to look like in another 6 months, 1 year, 2 years, 5 years, if I don't do something different? And so for her, she was able to do that thinking process first, and she was ready to make a change and take a massive action in her health. And when I sat down with her yesterday, so now 3.5 months later, she's lost 38 pounds. She said I was up my Christmas by myself. I put all the boxes up in the attic. 73. Wow. I know 30-year-olds that are like, oh, it's too hard. It's too much work. But then she was saying, I'm taking my, I have this gazebo at the bottom of my yard, and I'm walking with my great nephew. Listen here. Where are you going to be when you have a great? Where are you going to be? And she's like, I'm walking down to the gazebo with him. And before, I was having a hard time walking back up to the house. Now we go down there and we play and we do yard work together. And I still have energy when I'm coming back up to the house. But this is all because of the things that we've talked about in the last, today in the last 3 episodes that she's implemented. She's just seen massive improvement in her health. So it's just never too late, no matter how old you are. At 73, what are the next 20, 30 years going to look like for you?
Yeah, and I think that's shifting back to our very first episode that we did when we talked about mindset. What does the picture of your health look like? And I don't mean you having a goal to fit in a bikini or to fit in a dress to go to a wedding or whatever your short-term goal is. That's let's wash that out, because what I want you to start shifting to is look at yourself 30 years from now. Look at yourself 40. I pictured myself, that's 40 years from now is when I would be 70 something, right? And so thinking of that, 40 years, that's longer than I'm alive now, right? And so I have to, that's double. What does that look like? A lot can happen in there. You can either decline really quickly and have a hard time getting back, or you can start shifting and turning, and every single day gets better and better and better.
Yes.
But you have to make a decision. You have to draw the picture in your mind. My mom is 62, I think, 62 or 66. Let's go with 62. And she doesn't.
Let's go with 52.
Let's go with 50. Let's go. She's probably listening now and laughing, but I love you, Mom. But she does a vision board every year, because otherwise she doesn't have any direction of what she's going to do. And the stuff that she puts on there every year, it changes and it gets better and it gets bigger and it's more health and longer life and more activities and more things, where most people at that age are more medicine, less moving, more doctor's visits, less this, all these things. And you just have to change the way that you think. And really, again, this whole gut thing is going to be huge for every single one of you.
Yes. So let's talk about gut health first. 2,000 years ago, who is it? Hippocrates or something, he's the father of medicine, maybe. He said, it's all in the gut. Gut's the root of all disease. Now, is that statement 1,000% accurate? No, but it is a big part of our health and as a whole. And when, we now know that there's links between your gut health and your immune system. I tell my patients 80% of the health of your immune system is dependent upon the health of your gut. It's not dependent upon whether or not you got a flu shot this year. It's not dependent upon, I don't know.
Anything.
Anything. This is everything. This is a really, really important part of your health. Your gut health is linked to your mood. It's linked to your mental health. It's linked to autoimmune diseases. It's linked to endocrine disorders. It's linked to skin conditions. It's linked to cancers. So unless you don't care about any of those things, this is so vital for you to pay attention to. So, one of the things that was a big eye-opener for me years and years ago when I was studying gut health is a lot of patients that I bring into my office that are on antidepressants and, just all of the things. And that has become an epidemic in our country is people on antidepressant psychotropics and how the gut health, there's serotonin precursors in the lining of the gut. Serotonin is your is your joy hormone. So serotonin is the joy hormone. It's not pleasure. Pleasure is very short-lived. Pleasure is the dopamine hormone. You'll get that from sugar, cocaine, that's going to trigger dopamine response. Serotonin precursors are in the lining of the gut. So this is really important for balancing your mood. And it's also really vital for sleep. So it's, those two things, your mood and your sleep, guess what? It's all produced in the gut. So if you're dealing with any imbalances in that, if you're having a hard time falling asleep, staying asleep, this is all really vital. It's where it all begins. It's not the only thing. I mean, this has a lot to do with your adrenal glands, and it has a lot to do with, all the other endocrine systems and hormones, but the precursors, the beginning is in the health of your gut. So your gut flora, let's talk about that for a minute, has trillions of bacteria in it, trillions. Some good, some bad. So the question is, how do we know? Well, if you've ever been on an antibiotic, if you have ever eaten more carbs and more sugar than you know is appropriate, how about as just a standard American diet, if you've ever had that, if you've ever eaten bad fats, if you have ever drank an excess of alcohol or maybe consistently drink alcohol, if you have a weak immune system, that are all indications that you have imbalanced gut flora in your body. So that is the good bacteria to the bad bacteria. The appropriate percentage should be something like 80% good to 20% bad. I have a lot of patients that say, well, how do I know that? There's ways to test. You can do a stool sample, but that's kind of gross. And so it's just not necessary always to do that kind of lab test. I would much rather you be in a place where you're spending your resources, your money, your time, you're investing in the things that you can do to move your body forward instead of spending, $200 to $300 on a lab test that's going to tell us pretty much already what we know. Okay. So some other things that contribute to imbalance in the gut flora is birth control. You've been on any hormone therapy that can create an imbalance. Diabetes will do it. Diabetes can type 1 and type 2, by the way, not just type. And then we're going to talk a lot about stress today because stress can be one of the number one things that can create imbalances, and also has a real, just a contributing factor to high inflammation, to weight loss resistance, to a weakened immune system. So just as we're starting off here, these are just really important factors that you need to think about in terms of your lifestyle, that how can you be contributing to an imbalance in the flora in your body.
Yeah, and again, like this is something that builds up over time, right? So it could be maybe you like started a health journey 3 years ago, but you never really addressed the damage that you've done to your gut in the past. This could still be a lingering issue for you. So if you feel yourself and that you've maybe even plateaued, like you lost a bunch of weight, but now you're kind of stuck, and then maybe even like allowed some of your old habits to creep back in. Um, big indications of gut issues is skin issues, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you've got any acne, if you've got any rashes, if you've got any sensitivities on your skin, no matter where it is, that's usually, I always tell my patients, like they come to me with something on their skin, on their body, and it's like, well, it's probably coming from your gut, which doesn't really make sense to them. But the reality is that, you know, that's all. It's kind of like, when we'll talk about this leaky gut, it's literally leaking out of there.
Yeah. Your skin is your largest organ in your body, largest, because there are systemic issues going on. Chronic high levels of inflammation, fungus overgrowth like Candida that we're going to talk about in a minute, just some bacterial endotoxins that might be leaking out into the gut. So when you're talking about health, there's two things that are really important: the gut bacteria and the ratio of good to bad, and then the integrity of the gut lining. So there's junctions in your gut lining that should be really tight and together, and be really selective in what they're absorbing in terms of taking in nutrients. But sometimes there's bacterial kind of things that are called endotoxins that can create a loosening of those junctions, and those endotoxins can sneak into the body and create an inflammatory response. So your body will actually start to attack them, and then and that leads to an autoimmune. Disease has become so prevalent in our country, and in our cultures, and leaky gut is a really, really major cause of why that's the case.
And I think the problem is too, is that we get these diagnoses of autoimmune issues, and then we're sought out and we get a medication, but we never really address the leaky gut or the gut dysfunction. And so the problem just continues to happen, and you get stuck on these endless cycles of more medication, and never really actually fixing the problem. So even if you have been, go ahead.
Oh, no, I was going to say, trying to eliminate, this is what, Dr. Keela, I know you and I just think that is like nails on a chalkboard to me, but trying to eliminate a symptom without getting to the cause is insane.
Mm-hmm.
Makes no sense at all. And it's a Band-Aid approach. We see this a lot with high blood pressure. We see this a lot with blood sugar imbalances. We see this a lot with pain. It's an insane approach to your health. They've got to start looking at this differently. You cannot eliminate a symptom and expect to get better if you're not going to the cause of why it's there in the first place.
Amen.
It's huge. And so there's a diet-induced type of inflammation that can happen, and that in and of itself can trigger insulin resistance and leptin resistance. And those two hormones that we talked about a couple of weeks ago are one of the primary bases of weight loss resistance as a whole. Okay? So this leaky gut thing, now it can be really simple. One of the things, again, we talked about the causes, what can cause leaky gut. It's a high amount of carbohydrates, particularly when it's coupled with high fat. Okay, I'm not suggesting that high fat diets are bad. We talked about those last week too. It's when the high fat is coupled with high carbohydrate. That's the danger zone of the combinations, because the high fat is what's going to push those junctions open even further. And then the high carb, the sugars, that's going to lead to inflammation and exacerbate the problem.
Yeah, so again, like going back to last week's episode when we're talking about if you're going to do keto, you have to do it properly because if you do it and then in combination with how you're already still eating and don't change some of that stuff, that's where you start running into an even bigger problem where something that is meant to be good and healing can turn into something that is harming you over time.
Yes, exactly. So let's talk about some ways to not, like, unreliable ways to test for leaky gut, because this has become a buzzword in the health industry, wouldn't you say? Like,
Yeah,
oh, I have leaky gut. Oh, I have leaky gut. And so the health practitioners are trying to figure out ways to help you test for it. And one is these are unreliable tests. Tests not to do effective is to do a urine test to test for indigestible sugars like mannitol and lactulose, but they're unreliable. So if you have a practitioner that's telling you to do this test, they probably don't know what they're talking about. So I want to give you those tools too, because you can be really led down a rabbit trail by trying to look up some of this information and trying to find things online and, be sold kind of a package of bad. But
package of crap.
yeah, yeah, exactly. That's one way to put it. Yeah.
Hey, we're talking about gut.
That's right. That's right. But there is a protein called zonulin, and that's measurable in the blood. So that kind of reflects if zonulin is high, that has a direct correlation to intestinal purity, so being impaired. So if that's showing up, if zonulin is high, it means that you likely have an impaired intestinal barrier. This is not a blood test I do often in my office. Again, I want my patients to be there. There are symptoms that we can tell based on what's going on if this is an underlying issue, and based on the history of your nutrition and antibiotics and hormone therapy and all these other, and stress and all these things. I would much rather have you really focus on the things that you can do to heal and change your body and change your life than spending $200, $300, $500 on a lab test.
Yeah, because most of the time we don't even. Sometimes you do, because especially if like you've exhausted all, like I've done all these things, it's not working. Then like let's move into that. But people are so quick to like let's get the test, let's get the test. It on these cases for the most part, it does not need to happen if we can really start working on your diet and on your, and I say diet in a matter of like what you're actually eating, not in I'm gonna put you on a diet, leaky gut.
Yes. Yeah. Exactly. So our Trubalance patients, it's only our tough cases that we're ordering less, like doing food sensitivity panel, testing zonulin, doing all of these things. And there's some really cheap tests that you could do. Well, actually, that tests that cost nothing that you can do in your home. And one is to test for Candida. And this is a big one. I would say most people that I've done a food sensitivity panel on have some level of just a symptom that it's weak of. Most all people, Candida showing up on this for most of her life. She's been off of gluten, off of dairy. She's a yoga instructor. She's this tiny little cute little thing. She's skinny Nikki is what she is, y'all. She works really hard and she's beautiful and she, is all of those things, but she struggles. She struggles with her cycles. She struggles with her skin. And we did a food sensitivity panel on her and gluten still shows up, even though she has had it cut out for a long time. It shows up then, something that she out for the rest of her life. And her Candida was off the charts, like just so high. And, to her, she's like, this doesn't make any sense. Like I've really paid attention to a lot of sugars. And I'm like, listen, you don't need to be feeding the Candida for it to be there. The fact of the matter is it's there and we need to do protocols to bring it down. So what does Candida do? This is, can be correlated to chronic fatigue syndrome. A big one that I see for people that have chronic Candida, by the way, if you've ever been on an antibiotic in your life, it's likely that your Candida levels are they're just higher than they should be. If you've been eating a lot of sugar over the holidays or at any point in your life for a standard American diet, it's likely that your Candida levels are high. For some of you, all it's going to take is to cut grains and sugar for a while. Most people, though, really benefit from some level of detoxification and doing some specific supplements to be able to knock that back a bit. My sister, I'm going to talk about my family here because these are people that are near and dear to me. She had a wound on her foot that she couldn't get ahead of, couldn't get a handle on. And we tested her for Candida, and same thing, off the charts. We did a Candida protocol. We use what's called a detox tea concentrate that we only sell in our office. You can't get it on, I don't sell it online. Sorry about that. but the main ingredient is an herb called Pod Arco, and it is a yeast Candida powerhouse, like just knocks it back really fast. And then we also use things like coconut oil has lauric acid and caprylic acid in it that kill Candida. Garlic is really great for that. Oregano oil is great for Candida. But it is a fungus. It's a fungus that thrives. If you've ever had a yeast infection, if you've ever had acne, it's likely that you've had some level of Candida overgrowth. But my sister, we started her on this protocol. She tried everything for her foot. It was getting worse and worse and worse and worse. She hadn't even showed it to me until one day she sent a picture. She's like, hey, you have any ideas around this? And I was like, what in the world? Why did she show this to me when it first showed up? She's like, I mean, I've always had some level of something. So she's had eczema on her knees and eczema in her elbows and then on her foot that just came up. Well, it's just my normal eczema. Y'all, eczema is not normal. Psoriasis is not normal. It is your body. It's a symptom just like anything else. But I have two older sisters, and so I tend to be the baby, the last one that they come to for these things until they can't figure it out on their own. And so we did a call, healed up her gut. We cut a bunch of things out, and our foot healed. And so it doesn't have to be hard, you know, and then I have a neighbor who, she is precious to me, dear friend, has a 1-year-old little boy. And when they moved in, they had done rounds of vaccines and he had some ear infections. And so had been on an antibiotic. He would get better 2 days after being off of the antibiotic, the ear infection would come back. And so I said, hey, listen, if you would let me, I would like to help you get out of this cycle, because for him long-term, this is going to lead to a whole host of other things if we don't get ahead of it quickly. So listen up if you have kids. Antibiotics are given too often, too soon, without any afterthought of what's happening to the gut flora. Remember, 80% of the health of your immune system is dependent upon the health of your gut. So we have to start approaching this differently. So we started testing him. We started a probiotic and an infant probiotic is what we started with, because I thought that would suffice. Well, his ear infections went away, but mom brings him over to my house and she's his skin, and she pulls up. She said the same thing. Well, he's always had some level of food allergies and eczema on his back. It's always rough. It's just usually not this red. And she didn't think that was an issue. Again, we sometimes think it's just his normal eczema. That's just who he is as a kid. And so we changed to a more potent probiotic and a therapeutic dose of that. His skin completely cleared up. He hasn't had an infection or a sickness since then. So, but that was all about getting to the root of why that was showing up in the first place. And I know that we're not talking about weight loss resistance necessarily right now, but can you see how all of this has an underlying cause of why these things are important, because if your immune system isn't working well, that will lead to increased stress, and there's just this negative feedback loop and creates a perpetual cycle.
I think even though we're not talking about weight loss, I think we are talking about weight loss because, I know for me, like, I know if something comes up and it's not getting fixed, then there's almost like a moment where it's like, well, then screw it. Like, I'm just not going to do it anymore. Like, if nothing's working, so I'm just going to go make it worse. So you really have to have an awareness of your body and like notice that some of these things they're not supposed to be happening for you. Like these stories that Dr. Traci is sharing with us they're just an example. Like, put your story in there and see what the transition is for you and what really changes. So I think it's big for people to understand that we look at our skin and yes, like it's not about weight loss, but I promise you, like if you're overweight or even like Skinny Nikki has got Candida issues and all kinds of stuff going on that she doesn't even know about because she is skinny. So just the weight number on the scale, we started this off in the beginning, the number on the scale does not matter necessarily. It's all about your health and what's going on.
Yeah, it's huge. So let's talk about this little, I'm telling you, it's the cheapest free lab. Like, this is your test for Candida to see if you have any in your mouth. Candida will go to the warmest, darkest, moist spots in your body, which is going to be in your mouth when you're sleeping. And so you spit in a cup. If it has legs, that means that you have Candida in your body, in your mouth, which can be extrapolated to a systemic issue in your body. So it's super cheap. It's free. Get a glass of water and spit in it when you wake up in the morning. First thing, do not brush your teeth. Do not drink anything. It has to be before you put anything else in your mouth. Okay. And
will the legs happen right away? Like, what is it? Is it like an instant thing, or is there like minutes to wait, or you know what I mean?
It should happen pretty soon. I mean, it's going to be. I honestly, if you do a quick Google search, you're going to be able to see what it should look like.
Okay.
It's like legs that are coming down off of that saliva. Okay.
Okay.
But there are some things, there has to be a protocol to get you ahead of Candida. I have a patient in my office. She had tried everything, and it wasn't until we did specific protocols with her to having chronic sinus infections. That too, by the way, is an indication that you have a Candida overgrowth. If you're somebody who's getting sick really often, namely in the form of sinus infections, and the typical medical model way to handle that is to put you on what? Antibiotic, which is going to make the problem worse. It's like putting fuel on the fire. It's just going to, and that was my other sister. Hers was not in the form of skin. It was in the form of sickness, like here. She would get terrible sinus infections that would lead it, go down into her chest. And once we got this under control, the sinus, I've seen this time and time again, for people who have had infections. So what are the main things to do for gut health? Really, nutrition is huge, but that's going to be important for all levels. You have to start eating what God intended for you to eat. Okay, processed foods are not it. If man made it, he messed it up. Stop. We have people say, God made that. And he's like, yeah, he made it in the form of a bark, like a stick. You just don't see people eating cane sugar, walking around chewing on a stick of cane sugar. That is highly, highly processed. And like how you talked about honey, very, very difficult to go get it in its natural form. Even maple syrup, it's cooked down into a syrup. It's not that sweet. It's not sweet at all, I don't think, I don't know. But these are just all processed things. And so we have to get back to the way that God designed our bodies to eat, start fueling it that way. And, nutritionally, we'll see the body start to heal. But then we have to start minimizing our stress. It's a huge part of reducing inflammation, of allowing your digestive system to work properly. If you are in a flight or fight mode all the time, guess where your blood flow is not going? to your gut. It's going all other places. And so we have to start minimizing the stress levels, the stress load. That's what I love about this podcast. Dr. Keeley is talking about all of those, like how to create peace, how to it just has such a huge impact in your health in so many ways and so many levels.
And I think that's big, even how you're talking about blood flow to the gut. So not only will it not work right, but like if you're having issues going to the bathroom, like you should be going to the bath, like going number 2, going poo a couple times a day, and some people don't go number 2 for a week, 10 days.
Yes.
That's not normal. It may be common to you. It may be your normal, but that's not a normal way of living. It's not how it should be.
Yeah.
So that's another indication that your gut's not doing what it's supposed to be doing. And maybe it's stress, and maybe it's what you've done.
Absolutely. And sometimes we just have to, I was talking with a patient this morning who struggles with constipation, and we've tried all the things. We've increased magnesium, have increased her probiotics. We've put her on aloe vera juice. We just increase your fiber, all of the things that are the common things to do to help promote a bowel movement, and still not working. And I said, Karen, you have got to start to just focus on releasing whatever you're holding on to. Because and I know that sounds like a funny way to say it, but I was like, at some level, there's something that is deeper than just the physiological response of why. They say the gut is your second brain.
Mm-hmm.
There is an intimate connection there. And sometimes our subconscious brain can work so hard at keeping us sick, at keeping us protected, at keeping us stuck. And we have to go to this place that is allowing us to release whatever it is that's holding us back.
Let it go. Sorry, I didn't get to sing on the last one, so I had to do it this time.
I have 2 girls, so that speaks to my heart. Like,
you're welcome.
I'm surprised that wasn't me helping that one out.
I got all the surprises for you.
We have to release it, and that's different for everybody. But if there's some level of a protection or that you're hiding under, wait. Let's be really real about this. You carrying extra weight might be you protecting yourself. Something. Maybe you were really hurt. Maybe you're afraid of a relationship. Maybe you're just coping out of fear. And there are just so many layers, deep layers to this that I think it's important to address as we're wrapping up this series on weight loss, and to allow you to do some deep self-introspection on how you landed here and what patterns are bringing you to this place, and really allow yourself to release yourself from it. Are you willing to really release the patterns that have built these destructive outcomes that you've had, to be able to break through for better health, for more vibrant health, for more energy, for resilience, to reduce medicines, all of the things. So I think that's important to talk about there. And we got off track a little bit, but no, vital.
I don't think that that's off track at all, because I think that, like, we could give step after step and thing after thing, but if we still don't address what you're talking about, it's just another conversation that we're having. And, I know both you and myself, our hearts are to literally help people be set free.
Yeah.
Live their best lives. And that conversation I had people's faces pop up into my head when you were just talking about that.
Yeah.
And I know there's a struggle. I know there's an internal, deep struggle that the only comforting place to go is the cupboard.
Yeah.
Or a specific restaurant or a specific type of food or a drink, whatever it is, like there's a thing. It could be, maybe it's even substance abuse. I don't know what it is.
But when you make the decision to release yourself of it, here's what you need to expect: resistance.
Mm-hmm.
You need to expect that somebody's going to tell you to just take one bite. You need to expect that you're going to feel your steering wheel want to turn into McDonald's or Zaxby's or Popeyes or whatever it is for you. You need to expect that you're going to have a birthday come up that you're not going to want to go to because you know what you're going to be faced with. And here's what I need you to do: celebrate those feelings, because that means that you're on the right track. Yeah. That means that resistance, you need to say, yes, bring it. Yes, I feel it. Yes, I'm walking through this. Yes, I'm stronger than this. Yes, I can. Yes, you can. Yes, you can. And pretty soon you get some victory over that. You get some momentum and you become an overcomer, and you become somebody who perseveres, and you become somebody who starts to see some change in your body. And then you become somebody who others start to see change in. And then you say, I am never going back. Like, I am made new. This is I am building new right now. And you can't expect to just be there tomorrow. I want you to give yourself some grace as you start to apply these practices to your life. Be okay with failing, but fail forward. Mm-hmm. Love yourself deeply. And for some of you, maybe it's just the one person I'm talking to right now is you just need to love yourself deeper because you're worthy.
And also recognizing where that love comes from. With this whole battle ready thing, it's mind, body, spirit. We have to recognize that in order for us to love ourselves, we've got to get poured into from God. And that's where it comes from. And realizing that if you don't know how to love yourself, know that God loves you. He made you. He loves you exactly where you are. You're broken and beautiful in the same place. And he sees every single aspect, piece of it, and he wants to put you back. He wants to make you whole, and he wants to help you be set free into his love. But it does take a decision, and these types of things, it's not easy. And you've got to, like, when you have those moments of like spiraling backwards, like, have your armor ready of, I don't know if it's a gratitude list. I don't know if it's an affirmation list. I don't know if it's a group of friends that you need to text, like, I'm about to go on the deep end. I don't know what it is for you, but you've got to have things in place, people, places, things to keep you moving forward. Otherwise, it's just going to continue to be you in your house by yourself, and all of a sudden you're eating a whole tub of something, and the cycle gets put back in, and the shame comes back in, and the secrecy comes back in. Like, bring it out into the light and let somebody know about it. And understand this, like, if you get nothing else from this podcast, it's supposed to be about leaky gut. Like, God loves you. He loves you, and he loves your leaky gut, and he wants to help you get it fixed. Right?
Yes. I think intermittent fasting, let's talk about this for a second, because I said I would, and I don't want to leave them hanging on that. But here's why I think intermittent fasting is important. All the science is there. It's good. Your body's meant to do it. Like, there's nothing bad about it. Those are the basics. But one of the reasons why I love intermittent fasting so much is because if you give yourself a time that you're done eating,
you're done.
Then you can just be done eating. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm done eating at 6, or I'm done at 7, or for us it's 6. So that means we clean up the kitchen and we turn the lights off. And we just don't, like, some tea, but it's like, hey, there's nothing good that can happen from after 6. Usually when you're, unless you're, okay, that's kind of early. We just kind of called ourselves old there, but 7 for most people, okay, right?
Okay.
But usually all the eating that happens past that time is comfort eating.
Mm-hmm.
It's comfort. You're lonely, you're tired, you're stressed. You're just trying to find comfort in something that is not going to bring you comfort long term. Like, he is the only one that brings you comfort. Mm-hmm. And so if you're going to if anything else, intermittent fasting, have it be your discipline for the Lord to be able to say, I'm done. And then like really press into him in the evening hours. Or have something else that you do instead. For me, it's tea. When I'm craving something, I just do some hot tea. I have this caramel bedtime tea that I love. It has L-theanine in it. It just like makes me melt, just prepares my body for sleep. But our bodies are designed to fast like that. That's why breakfast is named that way. You're breaking the fast. So how many hours you do it, the more hours you can fast, the better, because it's going to give your digestive system a break and allow your hormone receptors to heal. And giving yourself a shorter, go ahead. And give yourself a shorter eating window is just going to cause you to really focus in on, I need to make these calories count in terms of quality, not quantity.
Yeah.
And you just have a more focused time on what you're putting in your body.
Yeah, there's an app that I like. It's called Zero, and you can put in like your start time and your end time, and when you're having your open, so you can have it tracking you. And the most common intermittent fasting windows is a 4-hour window, a 6-hour window, or an 8-hour window. I recommend, like, if you've never done that before, start with the 8-hour window. So that means like start eating at noon and you're done eating at 8. Or in Traci's case, she would start eating at 10 and be done eating at 6. And that's her window of time. She doesn't eat after 6 and she doesn't eat before 10. And so that's what that looks like.
Mm-hmm. Zero, and that is exactly what I do. I'm nursing a baby right now. So I wake up wanting to gnaw my fingers off. I just wake up hungry all the time. And so there are days where my eating window is a little bit longer because of that. So just to maintain milk supply. And that's a whole other conversation. Yeah. But for most people, those eating windows are fine. My husband, our eating window, he prefers a really short window. Does great with that.
Yeah, I think that's great too. And for the most, even for me, like my most of the time, my window is like 12 to 4, or really like 11 to 3 because of my schedule. And that works for me, but I eat a lot of food in that time. So anyway, what else do you want to talk about?
Well, I think we really hit on a lot of that. If you're, really looking at healing your gut health, reducing Candida, that in turn, if you're implementing all those things, it will reduce your inflammatory response in your body. Inflammation is one of the root causes of all disease. It plays a big part into weight loss resistance. If your body is trying to heal and your inflammatory levels are high, your body will go into storage mode. Mm-hmm. It will not want to release or purge anything if it's trying to heal and has high levels of inflammation. So just telling yourself why it's important is really vital. For people that are my patients, that are weight loss patients, if they have colds or flus, or their body's prioritizing some other level of healing, we will see them stall for a good amount of time. And we don't have to figure that out, but we don't stop. Mm-hmm. And that's why it's important for you to understand this is a journey. You don't stop. There's no stopping. You just keep going. You keep your head down. You do the things. You do the next thing. And, actually don't keep your head down. Keep your eyes heavenward. Yeah. That's going to make the biggest difference for you. Mm-hmm. You're not alone. You don't have to be on a journey alone. If you're not in the Battle Ready Nation Facebook page, Facebook group, get involved in that. That is a community of really incredible people that are on the mission. that are on the journey, that are there to walk alongside you on it.
And the cool thing about that group specifically is there's probably 40 doctors in that group. So if you've got a health question, I mean, there's people at your fingertips ready to answer questions. So utilize what we've made and provided for that. Hey, Dr. Traci, if I was a patient and I came in and I'm like, I know I have leaky gut, what are some like super simple steps to start off with to start healing that? What are something that you would tell me to do?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think one of the most nourishing substances that you can start to heal those junctions is to put some glutamine, L-glutamine into the body. The easiest form of that, the cheapest form of it, is in bone broth. I recommend making your own. It's so easy. The best way to do that is to cook, simmer it for a long time, like 18 to 24 hours. That's where you're going to get the most benefit out of all of the bones, all of the collagen in the bones. But that is one of the most healing things that you can drink and put in your body. I make soups often, vegetable soups. 3 times a week I'm having melon, if not more. I just love it, particularly in the winter months. And then the other thing is a good probiotic, making sure, and then the prebiotics are the fiber that are going to feed the good, healthy bacteria. Those 2 things are really good as well. Make sure you're getting enough water, cut out the sugar, making sure your foods that you're putting in are colorful, minimizing the white ones. You know, that's a really basic, unless it's cauliflower, don't be putting it in your body. You know, it's a really basic recommendation. Coconut oil is really healing as well. It's a good, healthy fat. But again, do not couple that with sugar. That's going to increase the severity of the leaky gut. So there's just some really basic things. Again, we use a supplement called Pod Arco that's really healing, allows cellular detoxification, and to tighten up some of those junctions as well.
Yeah, so another thing that I like to do is, I just started implementing this a few weeks ago. 1 day a week, I do juices. So I do either just juice or I add in bone broth as well. And so usually that's Wednesday. So at Wednesday all day, I'm drinking really just a liquid diet to help my gut heal and give it a chance to repair and restore and do what it needs to do. And maybe that's not a whole day for you. Maybe it's a meal, maybe it's a bone broth drink instead of a full meal. But a lot of times if you're like really severe, a 2-3 day bone broth cleanse is going to be extremely valuable to you, because it does help to heal the gut lining, but then it also is helping your body function and restore itself. And that's what really intermittent fasting is all about too. It's like you're giving your gut a chance to catch up to what you've done. So that's what that whole kind of mentality is behind that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that. I think that's great.
Did we cover everything we needed to?
I think so. I think that was. Do you feel like we did?
I think we went above and beyond.
Yeah, I agree.
I love the steps that you gave these guys. What I also love is the conversation that we had, guys. Don't take that too lightly. And if you are the person that's struggling, you're more than welcome to reach out to us. If you're on Facebook, in the show notes of this, if you're listening to this on podcast, you can click in there and you can get contacted with myself or even Dr. Traci as well. Just reference that you listen to us on this podcast so that we can know who you are, where you're coming from. But if you have questions, like, we'll help you. We'll get you connected with somebody if it's not ourselves, and kind of help you develop that tribe. If you want to be in the Battle Ready Nation group, the link is also in the show notes. Like, you don't have to go search for it. You just have to scroll down just a little bit further and it's all right there. If you are an avid listener of the Battle Ready podcast, please subscribe and leave a comment, leave a review. 5 stars would be awesome, but do what you feel is necessary. We just love having you a part of this group, and we just want more people to hear this. So if there's somebody that was on your heart, on your mind that you want to get this out to, just copy the link and actually paste it into your messages, and you can send that through your text message right to their phone. There's no excuses. Sometimes it just takes somebody else reaching out to you to ignite a change and transformation in your health. Traci, this is our last time together. I'm sure I know for a fact that I'm gonna have you back on here. We're gonna talk mindset and like some Jesus stuff on here. I feel like you and I could do a whole nother series on that. So stay tuned.
I would love it.
Um,
Stay tuned.
yes. Thank you for giving your time. You gave me 4 hours of your precious time. I know that it's a big thing. So I just thank you for being involved in this and believing in it. Anything you want to say to our listeners before we disconnect?
I would say just keep listening to this lady. She is full of wisdom and just a love and passion for you. That's why she does what she does. And share this. Share her podcast with everybody you know, because with her heart, she's bound to see just a massive culture change with what she's doing.
Thanks, girl. I love you. Guys, go out and have a blessed day. We love you. Thank you. And we'll see you soon.